You have things you would rather keep to yourself: a password, a playlist you would never admit to, a browser history you would take to the grave, maybe a folder on your desktop with an innocent name that is absolutely not innocent. But where did that instinct come from? Is it modern, born with doors and the internet? Or did someone 40,000 years ago want to be left alone? Did ancient humans have a private life? Today, we follow the trail from caves to ancient graves to a 4,000-year-old letter. Before there was ever a door to close, there was already something worth hiding. And to find where that started, you have to go back further than the first human. Picture a chimpanzee. A low-ranking, one spots a piece of fruit, glances at the dominant male nearby, and does something remarkable. Nothing. It stays perfectly still, chews slowly, pretends the food does not exist, and waits. The moment the big male wanders off, it circles back and eats in peace. Now picture another one, quietly interested in a mate, who suddenly acts bored the second arrival looks over, then drifts back later when no one is watching. Strategic concealment. Performed indifference. If that sounds familiar, it should. Scientists who study primates in the wild have a name for this: tactical deception. And they have recorded it again and again across many different groups. Hiding food, faking disinterest, carefully managing who gets to see what. We share a common ancestor with chimpanzees from roughly 6 million years ago, which means these habits are not some clever trick we invented last week. They are ancient hardware running quietly in the background, long before anyone built a wall or wrote a single word. So, the urge to hold something back, to keep one small corner of your life to yourself, is older than farming, older than fire pits, older than language itself. You did not learn it from the modern world. You inherited it. And if that sounds abstract, think about the last time you opened a private browser tab or quietly cleared your history before handing someone your phone. That is the same move as the chimp hiding its fruit. Same instinct, better tools. That instinct to hide is ancient. Yet hiding something is not quite the same as having a private self. For that, you need one more ingredient. You need to believe you are a someone in the first place. And it turns out there is a strange place to look for that belief: a grave. Go back over 100,000 years, and the world is not kind. There are lions, there are rival groups, there are no hospitals, and life is short in ways you do not want to picture. And yet, in that brutal world, people did something that makes no survival sense at all. They buried their dead with care, not just covered them up. They arranged the body in a specific position. They added red ochre pigment. They placed shell beads, carved objects, small gifts for a journey no one could prove was even happening. This was not a quick, practical burial. This was intention. Here is why that matters. You do not decorate a grave for a thing. You do it for a someone, a specific person with a face, a history, an inner life that was different from everyone else's. Which means the people doing the burying already understood something profound: that the individual in front of them was not just one more body in the group. They were a self, not interchangeable, not replaceable. And the moment a group of humans grasps that idea, that each person is a distinct self, something quietly follows. If there is a me, then there is a mine, my thoughts, as opposed to yours, my things, as opposed to the group's. The self and the private self arrive together as a package deal hundreds of thousands of years ago. You feel the echo of that every single day. The quiet line between my stuff and your stuff, my space and your space, drawn inside a shared home without anyone ever saying a word. Now you have a self and you have things that are yours. And here is where it gets hard. Where do you actually put any of it when there is nowhere to hide? Because for almost the entire human story, there was no such thing as your own room. Picture your whole life spent with the same 20 to 50 people, not a weekend, not a road trip. Everyone, all the time. You eat together, you sleep within arm's reach of each other. You wake to the same coughs and the same arguments every single morning. Everyone's mood, everyone's business, everyone's relationship drama, whether you want to or not. There is no door to close. There is no bedroom to storm off to. There is, quite literally, no room for a room. So, was privacy just impossible back then? One long group chat with no mute button? Not at all. And this is the clever part. Anthropologists who study hunter-gatherer communities today, groups that live in ways close to our ancient ancestors, keep noticing the same thing across cultures that never met. When people cannot build walls, they build rules instead. Unspoken, shared, and absolutely binding. No one writes them down, and yet everyone obeys them. You do not look directly at someone while they are doing certain things. You do not walk into a certain part of the camp at certain times. You do not ask certain questions. If a person turns to face away from the group, you leave them be. If someone slips off into the trees, nobody follows. These invisible walls are every bit as real as brick ones. Maybe more, because breaking one is a genuine offense. There is no honest excuse of, I did not notice, when the wall lives inside the culture itself, which tells you something surprising about your own privacy. It was never really about the door. It was always about the agreement. And you honor those same invisible walls constantly. When you keep your eyes on your own screen, instead of reading the phone, of the stranger sitting beside you on the train, you are doing exactly what they did around the fire. No bricks required, then or now. Privacy could survive without walls. There is one part of life, though, where the need for cover turns almost urgent. And here is the strange thing. Nearly every other animal handles courtship and mating right out in the open, no audience problem at all. We are the odd ones. We step away. We seek the dark. Even with no private room to go to, humans have always found a way to slip out of the group's line of sight for this. Why go to the trouble? Look across human cultures, and a pattern shows up again and again. The privacy around intimacy is almost never just about shyness. It is about strategy. Who is close to whom is powerful information. It touches jealousy. It touches status. It touches alliances between families. In a small group, where everyone depends on everyone, knowing who favors whom can shift the whole balance of the camp. A single hidden bond could quietly make allies or make enemies. So people learned to keep that part of life behind a curtain, even when there was no curtain to speak of. Not out of shame, but out of a very old and very practical caution. And that reveals something important about privacy itself. The moment a piece of information becomes a source of power, you stop sharing it freely. You start managing it. You decide who gets to know and when and how much. Your prehistoric ancestors made that same calculation in the camp, weighing every glance, guarding the one secret. That could tip the scales. You are running the very same program, just with better tools and worse group chats. And honestly, has that ever really changed? Think about the most protected secret in any friend group today. It is almost never money and almost never work. It is who is quietly seeing whom. That single piece of news travels on a need-to-know basis, in whispers and locked chats, handled with the exact same care your ancestors used 100,000 years ago. That secret still moves carefully, guarded as ever. Up to now, privacy has been about hiding, about the self, about information. It also lives in something you can hold in your hand, and sometimes a small, useless object says more than any grave or any rule ever could. Archaeologists keep digging up things that make no practical sense. A single colored stone carried hundreds of miles from where it was found. A string of shell beads drilled one, by hand, over what must have been days. A piece of ochre carved with a careful crosshatch pattern, tens of thousands of years old. None of it helps you hunt. None of it helps you stay warm or find water. By pure survival logic, Every one of these objects is a waste of time. And yet people made them, kept them, and carried them everywhere they went. Why? Because these were not tools. They were statements. They said, "This is who I am. This one is mine." An object that carries your identity is an object worth keeping close and worth keeping track of. It is the first whisper of a very human idea that yourself does not stop at the edge of your skin. It reaches outward into the things you choose to own. And the moment something is truly yours, a shadow shows up right behind it. Because if a thing can be yours, it can also be taken. The very same instinct that says, "This is mine," also quietly says, "And I need to protect it." Ownership and privacy are two sides of one coin, and they have been from the very beginning. You feel that shadow every single day, whether you notice it or not. The drawer you keep locked, the wallet you pat your pocket for without thinking, the phone that opens only for your face or your fingerprint, your ancestor guarding a single carved bead by the fire, and you guarding a glowing rectangle of glass. One worry, one answer. Keep what is mine, mine. You can hide, you have a sylph, you own things. And there is one more hiding place, the cleverest of all, because the most private thing you have ever concealed may have never left your own face. Picture the world your ancestors lived in. You are inside a small band, and your survival depends completely on the people around you. Now imagine you are terrified, or grieving, or quietly furious at the person next to you. What do? Often, you swallow it. You keep your face calm. When your heart is pounding, you smile. When you are aching inside, you act confident. On a day you feel anything but. Not because you are fake, but because showing raw weakness in a small, tightly bound group can be genuinely dangerous. The others had to be able to rely on you, and doubt about you could spread through the camp fast. Psychologists have a name for this, and they find it in every culture on Earth. Impression management, the constant low-level work of shaping how others see you. And in the ancient world, the stakes were not social embarrassment. They were survival. If the group started to see you as weak, or unstable, or a threat, you could lose status, lose allies, in the worst case, be pushed out entirely. And being cast out of your band was, quite literally, a death sentence. So, the ability to manage your face became a skill worth mastering. And here is the part that should stop you. That gap, the space between the person you perform on the outside and the person you actually are on the inside, that gap is a private life. Maybe the very first one. A whole inner world that no one else can see, running silently behind a calm expression. No cave needed, no wall required. Just you, quietly deciding what shows and what stays hidden. You live in that gap constantly. Every time you answer, "I am fine," when you are absolutely not fine. Every time your face stays neutral in a meeting, while your mind is screaming. The polished profile you show the world versus the messy truth. You text to your closest friend. Your ancestors wore that same mask in the open. You just call yours a poker face. We have looked at the face, at objects, at the rules of the group. But there is a deeper layer of privacy. And to reach it, you have to go somewhere. Very few people ever went. Deep underground. Because here is a question that has puzzled researchers for a long time. Why would someone create a masterpiece in a place where almost no one would ever see it? Go into some of the great painted caves, and the art is not near the entrance, where a crowd could gather. It is far back. You crawl through tunnels, barely wide enough for your shoulders. You wade through cold and total darkness, carrying a small flame that could go out at any moment. And then, deep in the belly of the earth, in a chamber that might hold 2 or 3 people at most, you find them. Handprints, animals mid-leap, marks that clearly meant something to whoever made them. So why hide it down there? One widely supported idea is simple and quietly stunning. This art may never have been meant for an audience at all. It was private. Perhaps a ritual, perhaps a vision, perhaps a conversation, with something the artist could not name. Whatever it was, it happened in the one place. The busy, watching group could not follow. A person went into the dark, alone, to do something that mattered only to them, and that points to the deepest private space of all. Not a cave, not a grave, but the inside of your own head. Because you have a chamber like that too. A place where you rehearse conversations that never happen, where you keep the hope you are afraid to say out loud, the grief you have never shown anyone, the thought you would never dare speak. Everyone is walking around with an inner cave lit by a single torch that no other human being will ever fully enter. And you still visit it every time you write in a journal and lock it, every time you type something into your phone, read it back, and delete it before anyone sees. Every private thought you choose to keep private. That is you picking up the torch and walking into the dark exactly like they did tens of thousands of years ago. For hundreds of thousands of years, privacy lived in the mind, in the face, in unspoken rules, surviving with almost no physical support at all. And then something changed. People stopped moving. And the moment they settled down, privacy finally got what it never had before: architecture. When humans began farming and staying in one place, they started building homes that lasted, and walls. Once they became permanent, stopped being just shelter from the weather, they became a statement. This space is mine. What happens in here is not yours to see. For the first time, the invisible agreement your ancestors carried in their heads was pressed into mud, stone, and brick. And one ancient town shows this better than almost anywhere else. Picture a settlement of houses packed so tightly together that there were no streets between them at all, no front doors at ground level either. To get into your home, you climbed onto the roof, and you went down through a hole into the space below. Think about what that means. The entrance to your private world was on top, controlled by you, away from the flow of everyone else. Your roof was your doorstep. Your home was a sealed box that you, and only you, decided to open. And this is where the whole story starts to feel personal. Because that instinct, my space, my walls, my threshold, is the exact instinct you carry today. A home is still the one place on earth where you get to set the rules, where you decide who comes in and who stays out. The wall got taller, and the lock got smarter, but the feeling underneath it has not changed in 10,000 years. You prove it constantly without even thinking. The little camera you put by your front door, the sign that politely tells strangers not to knock, the quiet relief of hearing the deadbolt slide shut behind you at the end of a long day. Your ancestors climbed down through a hole in the roof to feel that exact same thing. You just press a button and watch the porch light blink on. Different doorway, identical peace of mind. People finally had walls, doors, a room of their own. Even so, one last frontier remained. Because a wall can hide your body, and a door can hide your things, but neither one can carry your private words to someone far away. For that, humanity needed to invent something almost magical: writing. And the moment we did, privacy took its final, very familiar shape. Here is the twist this whole story leads to. Writing was not invented for poetry, or history, or love letters. It was invented for accounting. The first marks pressed into clay were receipts, lists of grain, counts of cattle, records of who owed what to whom. But once people had a tool that could hold words outside the head, they did not stop at inventory. They started saying things they did not want said out loud. Dig through the clay tablets of the ancient world, and you find something wonderfully human: private letters, sealed inside clay envelopes, so no messenger could read them on the way. Complaints about a business partner, gossip about a neighbor, a worker grumbling that the boss was unfair. In one ancient village of tomb builders, archaeologists found thousands of notes, scratched onto shards of stone and pottery: who was feuding with whom, who skipped work, who owed money and refused to pay. And Yes. One of the oldest written complaints on Earth is a customer, furious, telling a merchant that the copper he sold was garbage. Stop and feel how close that is. These are not kings, carving their glory into monuments. These are ordinary people, thousands of years ago, wanting to say something to one specific person and no one else. That is the birth of correspondence. Private words, meant for private eyes, sealed against the world, the exact same impulse behind every message you have ever marked confidential. And this is where the whole journey lands on you. You do it every single day without a second thought. The direct message instead of the public post. The text you send and then quietly unsend. The app that promises the photo will vanish in 10 seconds. The password on a chat that no one else will ever open. You are not doing anything new. You are the last link in a chain that runs back through clay tablets and sealed envelopes to a person by a fire, cupping a hand to whisper into one trusted ear. They were, in the ways that matter most, just like you. So, did ancient humans have a private life? By now, you know the answer. They did. Long before the first door, the first wall, the first password, they were already hiding, whispering, and keeping one small corner of the world just for themselves. That quiet pull to close a door, to guard a secret, to be left alone for a moment, is not a modern glitch. It is one of the oldest, most human things about you. And if a chimp hiding fruit or a nearly 4,000-year-old complaint about bad copper made you see your own little habits a bit differently, there is a whole trail of stories like this, waiting right here. Stick around and keep following the thread with me. Because the deeper you dig into them, the more you end up finding yourself. Your incognito tab is safe with us.